Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Jeremy Finn Physique Van Remo, and welcome to another interview episode of the Art of Female Muscle podcast. I'm delighted today to welcome my guest at this time. She is a NPC figure as well as WPD competitor. This is Chelsea Secord. Let me get her here. Welcome, Chelsea. Great to
Hi,
have you as a guest. So,
thank you for having me.
you're very welcome. Well, it's been interesting just looking at some of your background and just some of the things you've gone through. You've gone through a lot when you have
Yes,
been younger. Can you give us just some of your back history leading up to where you got interested first in health and fitness?
sure. So, long story short, and like I told you before the podcast, I'll try to do bullet points on here, but there's so much, right, to cram into one little tiny, hour of a story. But long story short, my self-worth and like eating disorder stuff started when I was like 8 years old. I remember using diet pills and quick fixes and stuff to try to lose weight. And then my biggest memory was around 11 years old, watching a documentary from an actress that I enjoyed. And she was talking about how she lost all this weight with speed. And I went to the phone and I called the guy I'd smoked pot with once, and I started using speed for years
What
to
is
lose
now
weight.
real quick? What is
Yeah.
speed?
So methamphetamine is like the
Meth.
actual
Okay. Okay.
term for it. And that went on for several years. And, it was just when to start destroying my life. I saw a lot of my friends, their lives being destroyed. And I quit doing that for a period of time, but I just went back into like quick fixes and never dealt with that, like, the inner little girl that didn't have good self-worth, didn't have good eating habits or behaviors, knew nothing about fitness, grew up in a or bad neighborhood, and all the things that came with it. So fast forward to a relapse that I had on meth when I was about, I think I was like 23, and I put on about 100 semi pounds with my pregnancy. Other things in my life was not going well. And after 9 years of not using meth at that point, I'd relapsed. And, it was back and forth for a while till finally I lost control over everything. And my life spiraled for like 3 years. And it wasn't till I was sitting in jail looking at 12 years in prison. And I remember thinking that, well, I have all this time. Like, I can't use drugs in here. I mean, you can, like, if it's really hard, but like, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to do that stuff anymore. But I was like, you can't use drugs, can't use the diet pills. You might as well try something that you never have. You have all this time to kill. And I started working out in county jail, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. I never stopped moving. And the guards kind of saw me trying to work out. So they'd sneak me in men's health magazines to like do actual workouts. And I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the endorphins and the serotonin. I fell in love with the sleep. I fell in love with the way it made me feel that I was doing something hard and getting the rewards from it. And so anyways, it opened up my eyes to something that and it was frustrating at the same point, right? Knowing that I'd been doing all these quick fixes, and what I was looking for this whole time was in simple diet and exercise, right? So that's kind of how I got into it, how I started. And that was about a little over 8 years ago.
Sorry, I accidentally
Mike,
muted my mic.
you're okay.
So, on one of the other podcast episodes or one of the other interviews that I had seen conducted with you and other podcasts, you said that you went to a drug treatment center that you said was one of the hardest in the country. What
Yes.
exactly happened there?
So, okay, so going from that point when I was inside jail, by the grace of God, I'd asked for rehabilitation instead of incarceration, and sometimes they grant it to you, sometimes they don't. by the grace of God, they did for me. And I went to a place that is no longer, which is so unfortunate because it really was a great program. It was called Pier One, or the girls' side was called The Haven, but it was a TC behavior modification program. So therapeutic community behavior mod program. And they still have them in prisons. They still have some other ones that are around, but my specific one got shut down. But it was it was insane. Like there's things that occurred there that like part of the reasons that they said that they shut it down was because it was inhumane and cruel things that they did to us and activities. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you couldn't pay me enough to go back and do the program again, but it absolutely was a part of saving my life. And
Hmm.
I'm forever grateful for it. My husband went through it, and some of my closest friends now, years later after leaving, the ones that are still clean and the ones that are still making it and doing good are the ones that actually completed the program. And that's out of like, in my phase of being there for almost 2 years, there was about almost 80 women, and there's about 5 of us left that aren't dead or in
Wow.
prison. So
Wow.
yeah,
So by the sound of it, you're one of the lucky ones to be,
yeah,
or the, I guess more appropriate would be fortunate
yeah,
because you were able to go through that, but then also come out of that and then also maintain, maintaining the desire to have a change in your life.
yeah.
I guess
But
is
it
the way I
goes
would
back to
describe it.
like what we were talking about before we were on air. I had reached my pain threshold before I went in this last time. Like I had reached my bottom. I'd been in and out of different treatment centers before. Because I had to, like the courts, or I have a child, you know what I mean? I didn't want CPS to get involved. And so I was doing all the things that was like for an external reason to get clean. But the last time that I used that last couple of weeks, without getting into too much detail, I was actually, I don't think I said this in the last podcast, but I was almost murdered by the guy that I was selling for. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it was pretty traumatic. It was like the show Dexter, like some like sick, twisted, like torture shit.
Oh my
And
God.
and it was that moment of like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I remember, talking to God, and that foxhole prayer of get me out of this and I'll change. And it was about a little over a week after that happened that I got arrested on a random warrant that wasn't for me. Another God moment. And then because I had drugs and stuff on me, they put me in jail, and the judges were just done with me at this point. That's why I was looking at so much time, and I had accumulation of like charges that were pending, and so. But anyways, it was that, and I remember that last time I thanked the police for arresting me because I knew it was over. And I was so that pain threshold we were talking about, when the pain of change is greater than the pain, or excuse me, the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same, is when you change. And I'd reached that pain that I wanted to change. So when I got to the Haven, when I got to that program, even though it was hard, it was doable. Like I didn't care. I was so willing at that point. I wanted to live so bad that I was willing to do all the crazy shit. Sorry, I don't know if you're allowed to cuss in this one. I was willing to do all
That's
the
fine.
crazy stuff. Okay. I was willing to do all the crazy stuff that they had us doing because I wanted to live. I wanted to live. And I knew that if I went back out, I was going to die. So,
Mm.
and it gave me the platform there too, to work out. And like my addiction though had transferred at that point, and all the counselors and stuff said they saw it, and I didn't listen in the beginning. Now years after, I can see it, but I had switched my addiction into working out. I was literally working out all day long, every opportunity, and I was avoiding like the internal like work I needed to be doing because I was just working out and fixating on food and like eating disorder and what's it called, orthorexia, where you work out too much. That was all coming out. And so I was there a lot. I was in there a long time, and I had a lot of behavioral assignments over food and fitness and self-worth and stuff. And but it gave me the platform to work through that stuff and come out on top. And when I finally kind of changed around and I finded what my balance is. And as I was getting close to exiting out and moving into the next phase of my life, all the girls, we were job searching when you got to working phase, and they were getting, jobs at restaurants or these jobs that places that hire girls like us in these facilities and easy jobs. And I found a job as a janitor in a gym at Crunch Fitness. And I remember bringing it to my counselor and like, this is the job. This is what I want. And she's like, no, you can't take, you're going to make $11 an hour. You can't take, you won't be able to support yourself. I don't support this. All the girls were making fun of me. And I stood my ground and I said, I need this job. I need to be in a gym. You don't even understand how important this is to me. I need it. And after putting in proposals and going this whole workaround, I finally got approved to take this job. And I remember traveling. I sound like a little old lady. I traveled for like almost 2 hours on a train and a bus to go clean shit on toilets as this janitor in this gym. And I loved making $11. I loved that job. I remember getting in there and it was so funny because my previous job on my resume before, I'd gotten to a decent place in my life externally, but I was a surgical technician. So on my resume, I had like that I worked in a hospital, I worked in surgery, I had all these like, credentials and stuff, and I'm applying for this janitor job. And I remember my boss, my soon-to-be boss, was looking at me like, do you know what this job is? Do you know how much you get paid? And I was like, yeah, but do I get to work out on my lunch? And she's like, thought it was crazy. And so I got the job, and within a year, I was the general manager of a couple of those clubs. And I had all, the opportunities open up to me. I saw it as an internship, even though I was making $11 as a janitor. I remember I used to like sweep and mop as close as I could to like the personal. I had no idea what I was doing when it came to working out. So I'd get as close to the personal trainers in their sessions and I'd listen and I'd be like, okay, so they're doing this and this, and then they do this. And then I go to the next one and I'd be like, okay, and they're doing this, and then they do this. And then on my lunch, I'd go do what they did. Right. So in my brain, I was like, I'm getting free personal training. These people in this nice area, they're paying thousands of dollars for what I'm getting as I make money, is how I was thinking, And then I got my while I was that janitor, I got my personal training certificate. And then I went on to be the master trainer there, the general manager, and paid off all my stuff, got off of parole, and, killed all that. And, but then there was something that was still calling me, like all of I work a very solid, I still do, 8 years in, I work a very solid 12-step program. I've been going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings weekly for years and years. My husband and I actually take Narcotics Anonymous meetings into the prisons and stuff, which we love to do, is go back. But I was working this solid program, and, God, higher power, all of my clients, they just kept being either addicts that were in recovery or addicts that didn't know that they needed recovery and they needed to go to a meeting. So we'd end up like having this like personal training / therapy type of session. And so fast forward, long story short, my now boss, I was on Facebook. He was messaging people saying, hey, I'm looking for free punching bags. I'm starting this community center that has a gym and it's free for people in recovery. And I had a couple punching bags in the back. So I was like, you come get them, they're yours. And so we started talking, and I was like, wait, so you mean there's a free gym, no sales, no hustle and bustle, none of the, the stupid shit, and it's all for free for addicts in recovery. And I pretty much told him, I said, if this is legit, dude, I'll quit my job right now and help you come run this place. And he needed staff, and I did. And I've been there for 5 years now.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I manage a couple different facilities. We're a nonprofit. I get to help teach addicts, how to work out for free. All the stuff that took me years to learn, I get to teach them right on spot, and do like a little mix of like a 12-step meeting and a fitness class. It's really special. It's a really cool deal. It's called Hazelbrook. I'm going to plug it, Hazelbrook.
And it's interesting. It's like a lot of people look down on jobs like janitorships or such like
Yeah.
that, but look at where it led.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
hadn't done that, if you
Yeah.
hadn't taken that step, if you hadn't insisted on it,
Yeah.
would you have been in the position of going from a janitor to a head manager
Yeah.
of gyms in your area and now getting to do something that you genuinely love to do every day?
Exactly.
It's like people like in corporations, they frown on people that are working in the mailroom. Some of
Yeah.
them came, some of the higher
Yeah.
ups in the company, they came from the mailroom.
Yeah.
So
You never
it's
know
like,
who might be
right.
your boss later.
Well, you never know where a job like that may end up
Yeah.
leading. It's
Yeah.
like I mean, that caused you to get together with people. It caused you to learn about things more than about what you loved. And then you just went from there, and here you are because of it.
Yeah.
So,
And you know what the coolest thing is too, like honestly, more than anything is that with my clients that I work with today, that it's more the recovery side of things, like clients that are getting clean, coming from the streets, coming from prison, active using, and getting them, into being self-sufficient are kind of my client focus now with a dash of fitness. Like we try to throw that in there. But the coolest part is that I get to look at them in the eyes and tell them, I know what you're going through, but take that bottom job. Take that job. You never know what it's gonna add up to. Be humble, be proud of yourself for each little milestone. And so all of the experience and all the trials and tribulations, like it has so much more purpose to it today.
right.
Hmm.
Now, how did that ultimately lead to you getting started in bodybuilding? How did that
So
all begin?
because I'm an addict. Because I'm an addict, honestly. So, I got really good into CrossFit. I got really good at Olympic lifting. But there's like a competitive side of me that I wanted more. And I had never dabbled into bodybuilding. And I actually, funny enough, which is I don't recommend for people listening, but I coached a guy. Douglas was one of my first clients that he wanted to do a bodybuilding show. And I told him flat out, I said, dude, I know nothing about bodybuilding, but I'll help you. And so I started being the person I am. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to help him as good as I could. So I started researching all this stuff about bodybuilding and asking, reaching out to people that I knew that knew people. And like, I knew nothing about bodybuilding. I'd never been to a show. I knew nothing about it. But I started reaching out to people that maybe know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. And I started getting little answers. And the more that I was geeking out on it for him to prep him for this first show, I was really getting intrigued by it and got him through that show. I think he placed second or third, did really good, which shocks me. Don't recommend hiring a coach like me, but he was adamant that he didn't want anybody else. I tried to push him off to somebody else that knew more. He didn't want to take anybody. But anyways, we went through that first show, and he bought me a backstage pass, and I got to be at my first show as a coach. And I remember just walking around, just like, wow, this is pretty cool. So something in the back of my head just kind of led into like opening up that avenue to learn more about it. Now, the thing that kept me really hesitant though was eating disorder stuff, right? Because I've had every eating disorder in the book being younger. So the diet, all the things I heard and watching somebody go through a prep, like it was something that I knew I needed to be. And then being an addict and being the person that I am, to be very thorough before I did my first prep, I did all this research and, listen to all these podcasts. And I kept hearing this recurring theme about how the diet is very hard and you get really lean and like, it's very, all the things. So I was very cautious. And, I promised myself that as long as if I did it, and I told my sponsor, I was honest about, how I felt and no eating disorder type of stuff came up, then, and it didn't jeopardize my recovery, then I could do it if I wanted to. And so I found my old coach. I just did a Google random search of people that were in the area that were bodybuilders. I found Armbrust Pro Gym, which is a badass gym here in Colorado, one of the meccas in the country, my personal opinion. And she was there. I wanted in person, and hired her, and I kind of just started learning about more nutrition stuff. And then as things were progressing, I said, I think I do want to do a show. So we slowly kind of prepped for one. And as things were moving along, I remember, I think I was like 8 weeks out, and I was doing my check-in, and she's like, I think she's like, I don't say this very often to people, but I think you're going to win this show. And that was the first like inkling that, wow, maybe I love this. I like this. This is really cool, but I might really be good at this too.
Was
And
real quick. Sorry to interrupt, real
yeah,
quick, but
yeah, yeah.
this is Ivana Wilkin,
Yes,
who is
yes.
your who is your coach?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Her maiden name was Ivana Ivusic,
And
but
she's
Ivana,
a figure pro, right?
yes, yep,
Yeah.
married to
Okay.
Brett. Hmm.
Okay.
So,
So so why out of all the other options that there are for coaches, why specifically her?
well, she was beautiful, and she was local, and there was something about her physique, and she's really good at marketing herself on Instagram. She was really catchy. So, and then working with her, and after having a consultation, it just felt right. I didn't know much. I didn't know where else to pick from. So it was kind of a random pick. And she had, she seemed like she knew what she was talking about, which she does. She got me through two pretty intense preps. So we did pretty good.
What is some of your competition history? When I went to look up some of it over on NPC News Online, I saw that you were in 2023 Masters USA. You entered into both women's physique and figure, and
Correct.
I was trying to remember how well you did in each.
So I
There's
want to
that.
say I did. I think it was second or third place in. I think it was second place in women's physique, and then it was third place, I think, in figure, or vice versa. I don't remember. But I didn't come in as good or as lean in that second show than I did my first show. When my qualifier, the Branch Warren, I got the overall and I think three first places in that show, and then went to nationals and didn't place as high, but I mean it's also nationals, so and it was a pretty hard show. There was some pretty wicked competition there. So
Oh yeah, there usually is. I mean, everybody
yeah,
tries. A lot of amateurs they try to get to nationals because of that. So that's why it's one of the biggest shows of the year.
yeah,
So
it
now,
was.
are sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it was fun. It was a good
Oh.
experience.
So now, are you retired from competition?
Oh no, oh no, I
Okay.
actually am semi. I don't want to say I'm prepping yet because I don't think we're there yet, but we're prepping for a prep right now. So I have a new coach by the name of Austin Stout. I kind of did a lot of background on him before I was choosing to switch coaches. I had a lot of gut stuff on the like gut issues post last show, and the reverse was not great. A lot of little issues on my last show, which I won't get into, but so, anyways, I took, a little over a year and a half off to heal my gut, kind of do a health rebound phase and tune back into life. I have a daughter who just turned 11. I have now randomly a stepdaughter who we just got back in our life, who's 14, who we haven't had all this time. So I wanted to tune in and be a mom and be a wife again for a little bit. But I did hire Austin a couple months back, and we're kind of doing a prep before the prep, and we're just feeling each other out. And I anticipate doing a show within a year. So,
If you have the opportunity, what would that show? What would the ideal show for you to compete at, like in
mm.
next year?
So I would really like to maybe do the branch again. I liked the way that the branch was ran as a qualifier. And then when it comes to a national show, I'm not sure. The difference that I think I'm going to do this time, which I think will help with the peak and the result of everything, the last two shows that I did, we picked shows and then I prepped for that show. This time, I think our approach is going to be kind of just slowly prepping and seeing when the body is right. And when we're in striking distance, per se, okay, this is prep. You know what I mean? And instead of it being like a 20-week, this is the date, we're prepping for 20 weeks, it's going to be, we're just going to kind of start dieting. We're going to kind of start doing this and doing like a long process. And then 7 weeks out, when we're in striking distance, okay, we're prepping. Let's pick either this show or this show and do it. It's kind of my
Okay.
approach. So less
All
stress.
right. Interesting approach, though. A lot of people, most people that I hear take the approach that you described earlier. It's like the target show is set and then everything is revolved around that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this method that
Yeah.
you're using this time around. Now you had mentioned Armbrust Pro Gym. Is that like your favorite gym to train at?
It is. I don't get down there as often as I would like because it is quite a distance from my house. But when I'm in prep and it's on, game face is on, I go down there. I make a point of it to go down there a lot more. The atmosphere, there's lots of pros that are there. The equipment is beyond immaculate. It's perfect for bodybuilding. Old school, like that old school, the metal, the clanging, the grunting, all the stuff. It's that you think that you're working hard until you walk into that gym. and you probably have a little bit more in the tank when you walk into that gym. You put in a little bit more. And then they also have their free posing class, which is, I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for them down there at that posing, I would not have won my shows. That
Hmm.
was a game changer for my whole appearance, and my whole presentation was them being able to help me with posing. It is beyond, I can't believe it's free. It's beyond a service that should
Oh,
be
it's
free.
free. It's free.
Yeah.
It's part of the membership.
Yeah. As long as you have a
Excellent.
membership or you pay $20 for a day pass, you can come down and pose with them. And it is crazy how good your posing gets if you're actually consistent going there. Karen
Okay.
is great. Sarah, IFBB Pro, Sarah Corney, she's part of that. Waddy's amazing. Waddy Watt, he's also part of the posing team down there. Yeah. Heather Armbrust, or not Heather Armbrust, but Heather Grace. She comes in every once in a while to help with posing. I was training with her for a little bit on the newbie fit. She is intense. She's
Hmm.
intense. Yep.
Yeah,
So
that was Heather Armbrust was one of my favorite competitors
Grace, Heather
back in the
Grace.
night.
Oh,
Oh, isn't that, oh, Heather Armbrust.
you
Yeah,
mean
that was like, yeah, like
Dylan's
right.
ex-wife?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like she's just amazing as a
Yeah,
competitor. Just blew my mind.
yeah.
Especially her leg development. I mean, it was just crazy to see just how well she did. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm glad she's apparently enjoying her retirement. So I'm glad
yes,
that that's the case. So
yeah.
now, what's a typical training split for you when you're in prep?
So my last couple of preps, I was doing 5 days a week. It was a pretty set. This is another thing I like about my new coach is we have a different kind of training approach. So last preps I did was no, I'm sorry, it was 6 days a week and very high volume. And it worked for a while. I don't think it worked for my second prep. I think it caused, I'm older, you know what I mean, when it comes to bodybuilding. So I'll be 37 this year. And I think it was a lot of tax on my central nervous system on the second prep. My body was tired. It wasn't responding as good as it did the first go around. With my new training split, it is whatever volume, whatever schedule that I choose to have that I get to rotate through. So I could do, if I wanted to, I could do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 3 days off. It's whatever I choose, and it's much lower volume within the day, the training split. But right now, I've been pretty consistent about doing 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, and it's kind of a mixture of everything. It's like I have posterior chain, or I have some back and some bis and tris. It's kind of all over the place, but lower volume. But I like it. It keeps it fresh.
Okay. What's your favorite body part to train and your least favorite?
God, I don't think I have a least favorite. Shoulders are definitely one of my favorites. I love seeing. My shoulders are one of my weak points, and I really need to bring them up. So I love getting a good shoulder pump and seeing my delts all big. And I like training glutes. It's another part that I need to bring up. So I like feeling that burn in my glutes, knowing that I did something. I really like training everything. The only thing I guess is kind of uncomfortable is when I'm training low back. So like spinal erectors, I don't like that. It feels like you have low back pain when really it's just your spinal erectors are pumped up. I don't like that feeling, but it seems to happen when either when I'm working them too much or when I'm tired, like central nervous system fatigue. That second prep, I remember all the movements I was doing, no matter if I was trying to incorporate them or not, I'd feel my spinal erectors on all of them. And that to me, that's a learning lesson. That's like it's an indicator that I'm doing too much volume if my spinal erectors are fired up when they're not supposed to be.
Hmm. Now, going back to your show for a minute, the Masters show, you had competed in both women's physique and figure.
Correct.
Which of the two divisions, if you had a choice, would you want to stick with? If
So
you
funny,
eventually got a pro card,
yeah,
and
funny you
which one do
ask.
you want to stick with?
I am choosing to drop the heels this year, and I'm going to do women's physique all the way. I didn't really know.
Yay!
Oh yeah, for sure. It's my body. It is my body 100%. And I didn't know what I was till getting up on stage a couple times and seeing I'm 100% women's physique, which I like anyways. That's good. I just didn't know if I was supposed to do which one. And I love it. I don't want to keep myself in a box. I would love to just get as big and muscular as long as I keep my femininity. You know what I mean? I'd love to get all big and muscular. So we'll see
Okay.
what happens.
Okay. Are you currently sponsored by any companies?
Technically, yes. So there's a company out here, it's local. It's called My Fit Foods. Great company. I'll plug them all day long. They're a wonderful company that I've used throughout my entire weight loss journey and then fitness journey. But they're a meal prep company out here that they give me free food and I'm sponsored by them. They do really good discounts for all my clients, which I love, like my recovery clients, my training clients. And they're great for beginners. The reason I don't personally use them as much as I, would like to is because it's not 100% what a prep diet is. It's just too far off when it comes to like grams and how much fat and how much it's great for beginners. It's not great for prep. I tried that too on my last prep for a couple weeks and I wasn't dropping like I was supposed to, so I had to not use them anymore. I was sponsored by Amino Asylum, the peptide company that just went down, unfortunately. Um, I think that is it.
Okay. Now, do you have, as a trainer, is it all strictly lifestyle clients, or like you were describing with recovering addicts and such, or do you also have any? I can't remember if you had mentioned it. You have any competition clients
Yes.
as
So
well?
I do have, yeah. So on my bigger job, my more time consuming job, which is the nonprofit and the recovery setting of clients in the free gym, I have several, many clients there. But then I also have my own online training business that I do, coaching business. I usually only like to have about 10 clients because I only allot, a couple hours per week to do it. But there's been competitors in there. There's lifestyle. It's whoever wants my help and wants that extra accountability. And I have one lady who I still do one session a week in person in the mornings, who's been with me since Crunch for 5, 6 years, but I don't take in-person clients anymore except for her because we've been together for so long. So yes, I do all those things too.
Okay. Who are some of your competition clients who stand out to you? Who are the ones that you think that really got some serious potential for the future, like in as far as their comps go?
So my old client Douglas that I was originally talking about, I don't think he's working with any coaches right now, but he's one of those clients that has so much potential and he doesn't use it. It drives you up a wall. His genetics, his structure, he could go very far in the sport. And then I have a girl, Ashley, who is very dedicated to all that she does. And she's got a beautiful physique, very humble. She doesn't know how beautiful she is. She could go far. The only thing when it comes to competition clients, I draw in recovery people, right? And bodybuilding can, what I call flare up, it can flare up that demon in your head of addiction because you're so fixated on food and you're fixated on this all day long that it lights up those things that addicts have that become obsessive compulsive and addictive. And so when I'm coaching people, I go through this long mom talk of like I've actually talked more people out of competing and probably out of clients than I have into it because I don't sugarcoat it. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I enjoy coaching. I enjoy getting reps in and practice, and it keeps me when I'm in off season. It keeps me in the world of bodybuilding. I get to go to the shows and see my friends, and keeps me relevant, And so I do it for those kinds of reasons. But so a lot of my clients that are recovery clients, I have to just be very careful because, and when it comes to the supplements and it comes to the way that you administer certain supplements, like that could be a trigger for a lot of people. So I have to have all those conversations.
Hmm.
I had a guy who just recently competed, Jesse. He was phenomenal. He lost, God, over 100 something pounds, I think. A lot of it, I'd say good, like 50 of it he lost, 60 of it on his own. And then we worked together, lost another, I think he came down like 35 pounds, and he's in his reverse right now from his show back in June. He's killing his reverse. He looks so good. All my clients, it's hard to pick like any that are, they all have their own little things. You know what I mean?
But that's great also that you have the personal touch. I was talking about that with an earlier interview with Brittany Parrish, and it's like she caps her clients at a certain amount because you see these coaches with like hundreds
Yeah,
of clients.
yeah,
And it's like the temptation is always there because of the fact there's like no personal interaction.
no,
And then there's also the danger of, like we were talking about then, cookie cutting and
yeah.
giving a cookie cutting meal plan, cookie cutter training regimen, all of that. And it's like, it's the way I see it is like, if I was going to do something like this, I would look for someone who only wanted a certain number
Yeah,
so that they would be able to maintain that personal touch.
agreed. Agreed. And I mean, honestly, like there's apps for that. Like there's so many people that have apps that are the same thing that you pay coaches hundreds of dollars for, that you get this, the app. And when you want coaching, you know what I mean? There should be, I think, somewhat of a cap. And honestly, I know that my coach, I don't know the number. I don't ask. I'm sure he probably has a lot of clients. He's very, very desired because of his niches, but he's very, I watched him for a year. He's very personable. I did the research this time when I was hiring a coach, and he's very reputable, and all of his clients had nothing but good things to say. He also has like a mentorship program, so he teaches what he does with people, and I like that. I like somebody who is educated and they can explain why, because I'm a geek. I love, if I'm not at work, I'm in the car listening to bodybuilding podcasts, listening to educational podcasts, like just soaking it up. So I love people that are teachers as well as coaches,
Hmm,
you know?
interesting.
Yeah.
Subject that I like talking about with other competitors because this is a phenomenon that you see a lot with competitors. But the thing that really strikes me is that, especially when it comes to younger competitors, people who are just starting, this doesn't get talked about much. And it really is kind of surprising that it doesn't get shared. How have you personally dealt with the phenomenon known as post-show blues? How
Yeah,
have
it's a
you,
real thing.
what have you found to be the most effective treatment for you when it comes to that?
It's a
And then
real
for,
thing.
and then for people who are tuning in who are not necessarily familiar with that, can you describe what that is like for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get down to like the biochemistry part of it, it's that all of your hormones are not regulated, right? So your body is not producing serotonin properly. It's not producing dopamine properly. Your ghrelin and your leptin. So I call the ghrelin hormone your gremlin hormone because it's the one that makes you hungry. Your leptin is the one that makes you satiated. And that is off for 6 to 8 weeks for some people. So you're in this battle of still feeling off, right? That you were in prep, but when you're in prep, you have this goal. You have this thing that you're waking up for every day, and you have this motivation, and you have everybody that's like cheering you on, and like you look great, and blah blah blah. And like when you're post prep or post show, excuse me, you should be putting on a little bit of body fat, so you are, the lines are starting to leave, the high fives and the cheers, and everybody giving those accolades starting to leave. You're still starving and you have to be on this diet. It's almost worse, I think, post, no, it is, I'm not gonna say it's worse post show than it is pre show, because you're fixated on food, and now you don't have the show looming over your head. So you have that little thing in your head saying, "Oh, you don't have a show. You can eat that extra whatever, or you can go get the donuts." And so it's this mind fuck. And your prep clothes aren't fitting good. Depending on how you rebound out. My first one, I did pretty good, but it's also because I knew that I was going to Masters. I had another show, right? So I still had that show. My second one, for a multitude of reasons, I didn't do well. I didn't get a meal plan from my coach right away, which I think was, a big deal. I should have gotten one right away, which would have helped. Because the first couple of days I was, kind of effing off. And then just not having that thing to fixate and focus on. And then I had some gut issues. I learned in that post prep phase, I was what I'd become a volume eater. So in my head, I was convinced that I was doing okay in my reverse because I wasn't eating shitty food. I was eating a ton, and I mean a ton, like pounds of celery and vegetables and all this stuff that was my digestion had slowed down. So even though I was eating healthy foods, my body could not process it. So my gut was getting backed up. I'm not digesting it. My gut flora is getting off. But grateful, right? I went through this because I learned I had to do a gut protocol, which I ended up going to Matt Cusano. Shout out to Matt Cusano for that. He got me through that, which was great. Um, but I'm grateful that I went through it because I got to learn from it. So I learned, of course, I geeked out about gut protocols and gut health and reversing and all this stuff for months while I was going through it. And now if I have clients, I can kind of help them guide through what the signs are and, the different levels of what a gut protocol would be. And, if they need to seek outside help and what my wheelhouse is. So anyways, it's turning the lemon into lemonade shit. But yeah, the post show blues it's a real thing. And I think as much as somebody can educate themselves pre-show, right? Don't just learn about the show, do your due diligence to research all of aspects, right? What it takes to build a physique for a show, what it takes to do a prep for a show, what it takes to reverse out of a show. Have good support systems in place. If I didn't have a good supportive husband to kind of keep me accountable and understand what I was going through, and I let him know too. I think where a lot of people mess up is they expect their significant other or their boss or the people around them to just get that they're not in a good place, or you know what I mean, expect them to just forgive them for being assholes. But you have to tell them what you're going through, kind of give
Hmm.
them a heads up, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm doing this prep. I'm probably not going to be myself for 2 weeks up to the show and maybe 3 weeks after the show. I'm not going to be myself, but I'm okay. And I just want you to know so that way you can, expect it. And this is how you can support me. Like, tell them, I need you to don't ask me after the don't bring me donuts after the show. Don't ask me to go out for ice cream every single weekend. Don't shove food in my face. Don't ask me if I'm okay every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Let's ask me if I want to go for a walk outside. Ask me if I want to go swimming. Show people how to support you because they don't know. People who aren't in a bodybuilding, they have no idea. So we have to teach people how to help us.
Yeah, it's like the thing that amazes me about post-show blues is that so many people know it's a phenomenon. I mean, everybody I've talked to says it's just what you said, that it's real, it's that everybody experiences it. But especially for younger competitors, it's like they don't get taught this,
Yeah.
or by and large. And it just shocks me is that everybody knows that this
Well,
condition is there, but then it's like when it comes to the young people who are just up and coming, nobody tells them. And then
yeah.
it's like they look at this and they're like, what the hell is going on with me?
Yep.
It just amazes me that happens.
That's what I mean about having a coach, right? That's going to be transparent with you and talk to you. Like I said, I've talked more people out of prepping than I have into it because I talk about all the things that are uncomfortable and kind of pre-warn them. And it doesn't sound so appealing when I'm talking about it. You have to be another level of crazy to really want to do this and really dedicated to want to do this.
Right.
And if it wasn't for my addict brain of being obsessed about it, no offense to my old coach, but we never talked about this kind of stuff. I I went looking for it. I kind of prepped myself for what was to come, you know what I mean, and how things were going to be. And get that, even then, even though I prepped myself, I still kind of messed up my reverse a little bit, even though I was prepared for it.
Now I've heard of people talk about reverse dieting, but what exactly does that involve? Is that like you're slowly progressing? Because you've been fighting your homeostatic mechanisms during your prep. I mean, it's like your homeostasis is your body's natural ability to maintain a balance. Because I mean, that's why you have the prep that's so long. So you're gradually getting yourself down to that. But then it's like you'd have to reverse diet yourself back from it. Do you think that's because people screw up the reverse diet that helps post show blues to come about? Or what are some steps with reverse dieting that would help minimize the effect of post show blues?
So yes and no. Two-part answer is if you put on too much body fat too fast, which is so easy to do because, like I said, back to that ghrelin and leptin thing, your gremlin hormone, your ghrelin hormone, you could be literally stuffed full. You could have eaten and you are full. You are good. Your body does not need any more food, but your brain will say, I'm hungry. Go eat donuts. I'm hungry. Get more in. I've heard of people throwing up and then eating again because they're hungry and doing it several times. That's how off your hormone signaling is, right? So A, that reason. B, when you start to fill back out like your fat cells too fast, you can't come back from that, right? And you will reduce your insulin sensitivity, which is like when it comes to bodybuilding, you think long term, right? We all want to grow to have a certain look on stage, and we want to get every little inch of progress that we can. If you ruin your insulin sensitivity post show by eating too much and getting fat too soon, you ruin that perfect, beautiful spot where you're very insulin sensitive and you're in a great place to add lean tissue slowly. But if you eat too much, you're going to get fat and then you cut that grow phase off. So that's like the biochemistry portion of what is happening. But then if you so I guess to answer it, it's like sticking to a plan, having a coach that you trust and that you a lot of clients too will be like, I can't, like one of my last clients, Jesse, when we first started talking about hiring and money, and that he was, you know what I mean, he only had a certain budget, and I told him, I said, look, I appreciate you want to do this, but I'm going to tell you right now, I will not let you take me on unless you can afford to have a coach at least 4 weeks post show, because that is the most important time for you to have a coach. So whatever that looks like that's the only way I'll let you hire me, is if we have that 4 week window post show, because a lot of times coaches will let them hire them, they get them through the show, and then they're gone.
Right,
And
exactly.
people they
Hmm.
don't know how to do it right, mentally, emotionally, physically, like they don't know how to rebound out of that. And just having that accountability of a meal plan right after you get off stage, right, and having that person that you know you're going to be taking pictures to and answering questions to in a couple days, that Snickers bar doesn't look as appealing. It's still pretty appealing, but it doesn't look as appealing, you know.
Right. I just a couple of other questions. What do you think is the current, what are your thoughts on the current state of women's physique? Because it's like right now you've got, I guess what's now termed the muscle divisions, women's bodybuilding, women's physique and figure.
Yeah.
And it seems like with advents of new divisions like bikini, wellness, and now the new
Fit
fit
model.
model division,
Yeah.
that the quote unquote muscle divisions are now getting pushed out. Do you
Yeah.
think now, would you agree that that's happening? And if it is, how can things be improved so that women's physique will not be looked upon as something to be
Yeah.
pushed out, but something to be encouraged for other
Yeah.
competitors to join?
I love this topic because I am forever. I even when I was a kid, I remember having a fascination with women with muscle. Like I'm sure you remember the muscle or the wrestlers Sable and China. They were
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh
oh
yeah.
yeah, they were my girls. Like when I was 8, I remember I used to get in trouble because I'd be sneaking watching them, right? And my parents hated it, but I was fascinated by them. I thought they were beautiful, and I think that there's always going to be a niche of people that appreciate that look. My husband, he is 100%, he loves big muscular women. There is that niche of people, men, women, that love the sport. I think when it comes to bodybuilding specifically, I think that we need to push more for them rewarding femininity. I think women being able to, it's like some of my favorite women competitors right now, Chelsea Dion, Amanda
Mikado.
Malakando. Yep.
Mikado.
Yep. Those are two of my favorite women right now because they go on and on into how it is a presentation. It is a pageant. It is the whole package. It's not just how big your muscles are. It is beautiful flow, makeup, suit, like it needs to be that. And I think that if women can continue to put as much effort into their femininity and keeping their femininity, if you know what I'm saying, right? Not going to
Right.
those extremes, and having patience, and accepting where their genetics are. You know what I mean? I think that will give a better look for the sport as a whole, especially the bigger divisions. Um, and I'm praying that there's more support in it and that more women choose to do it. And I think that if we have good
Hmm.
role models like them, that can, and they're really good at like social media. They're really good at YouTube. They're really good at, that's why I love doing my Instagram. I love capturing things because I love motivating and being available for people to ask questions or have, concerns, or they need to talk about things, because I think like that's what drew me into a lot of, the things that I follow and the people that I follow is, watching Chelsea Dion. There's a girl from the UK, Fitness Bex. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's a really good one. She has lots of great content, but it's those women that they could be your friend, right? If they weren't on YouTube, like I think of them almost as my friends. I wish I lived in Vegas because they'd be my friends. But it's those women that are approachable, that make you feel like you're not some freak, like you're normal, and that, you know what I mean?
Right. What
So
are
I
s-
think women like
wh-
that.
what are your thoughts on the new fit model division? I know that's caused quite a bit of controversy. Some people say it's more progression and evolution of women's body of the women's division. Other people say it's all a money grab. It's just there to
Mm,
get more money for the promoters. How do you see it? And
gosh,
do you think that's going to have an impact on women's physique? Because the pro fit model division debuts next year,
yeah,
and they're going to start that. Do you think that's going to help push out WPD, or is it going
no,
to have any impact at all?
I don't think it'll help push out women's physique. I've gone back and forth how I feel about it, honestly. Because I have to think about it in all aspects. Do I like it for me? Do I enjoy watching it? I don't. But that's me, right? I also don't like football. There's millions of people that like football. Um, Now, I have a daughter. If my daughter wanted to do fit model and that was what she was comfortable and she worked hard for it and she thought that that was something she'd be good at, I would be all for it, right? So if it's something that is for more women in general to feel like they can work towards something, be strong, lift, get into the gym, I'm for it. Overall, I'm for it. Um, I think it will bring in more money. Hopefully, it's distributed in the right places, right? I don't think it would hurt bringing in more money. Just hopefully it's used right, right? Um, and I think hopefully it just will remind everybody that the pageantry side of things is what is mainstream. It's what is desired. It's what people want to see. So maybe it will help the competitors refocus on that being a big part of their presentation is pageantry, because that's what's being
Hmm.
rewarded, you know?
Yeah, very true. Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Now, based on all of the experience that you've had with just weight training, but also with bodybuilding, what would be for younger competitors or newer competitors who are just getting started? It's like when we start something new, we all have a fantasy of what it's going to be like until we actually get into it, and then we realize that, hey, this wasn't exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's like fantasy versus reality. So, what would be for young people who are, or up new competitors, people new to the women's side of bodybuilding? What would be some advice that you would give them as far as a couple things? Encouragements, like what are some things to look forward to? What are some benefits that you found, not just from competing, but living the bodybuilding lifestyle, but also what would be some warnings that you would give?
Mm,
Things to avoid that you've encountered in the bodybuilding lifestyle, as well as competitions that need to
yeah.
be avoided. So what would be some advice in terms of both of those?
Great topics and great questions. And I think that as a whole, overall, bodybuilding has been a huge thing that saved my life. I think I said this on George's podcast. If I would have found bodybuilding, professional sport bodybuilding, before I found recovery, it would have probably killed me. Okay. It probably would have taken me out. But because I found recovery and my 12-step program and that side of my life, and then I found bodybuilding, it was a perfect match for what is meant for me and to help save my life and continue on. Now, what I mean by that for people is that bodybuilding can be very addictive. And I think that now I've been in this for a couple of years, I see it draws in people with addictive tendencies. And if you aren't working on yourself, the internal side of things, as much as you're working on the external side of things, it can very well consume you and ruin your life. I've seen and heard of people ruining relationships, ruining jobs, because they let it consume them and they get these blinders and they don't have a balanced or rounded life. And especially when you get into competing, it's very easy to get drawn in by the flashing lights and the bikinis and the prestige and all the high fives and all the good jobs and all the stuff and the sponsorships and like social media, even for me a little bit, towards the end when I was all the attention, like it's really cool, but it's not real. Like it's not all the time real. Post show, my life went right back to normal, and if you don't love the every day in, day out process of bodybuilding, the monotonous meal prep, the cold chicken when you don't have a microwave, the doing a body weight workout or a run outside because you don't have access to a gym, doing it when you don't want to, showing up when motivation's not there but consistency and resiliency is. If you don't love all that, and if that's not something that you want to do because you want to do it, professional bodybuilding is probably not for you. And that's okay. It's not, I try not to place good or bad or wrong or right on things. You can still be, Scott McNally, he does a really good podcast and he talks about how you can still be a bodybuilder without competing. Like,
Right.
you live the
Exactly.
bodybuilding
Hmm.
lifestyle, but you don't have to compete. You don't have to go to those extremes, for a plastic trophy. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, I would just, take an inventory often. Why are you doing this? Who are you doing it for? And what is your real motivation behind doing it?
Hmm. Great question. And then I just have one more question for you. You had mentioned an organization in one of the earlier podcasts that you did called Sober Souls.
Sober Souls. Yeah.
What exactly is that? Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah, my husband and I ride with, it's his club, but I ride with him. It's a sober motorcycle club, and they actually just got approved to be a 501c3 nonprofit, but it's a group of guys that got together. God, I want to say it was back in the 90s, and they've grown since then. But a lot of them, were old one percenter motorcycle club guys. All of them have struggled with substances of some sorts, and they all have this common denominator that they love to ride motorcycles. And it's a real motorcycle club. It's a real structured motorcycle club, but instead of riding for like one percenter clubs that are often have bad uh, reputations about things. These guys ride for good purposes. They do their tasks for good purposes. They go and support treatment centers and recovering addicts. And there's a school out here called 5280 that is, or it's Full Circle 5280 program. That's like a recovery youth program. So kids that got into young kids like 13 up to like early 20s that got into drugs and alcohol, and they now choose to go to this school and this program to be clean together and go to a school that has like 12-step meetings in it. So Sober Souls supports them and does poker runs and like these rides to bring in money for them. It's just it's a non-denominational type of fellowship of clean and sober motorcycle guys, and then us old ladies that ride with them.
Well, that's wonderful. It has been a delight to talk to you. It's
Same.
been wonderful. It's been wonderful to have you here to share your story and why you're interested in weight training and bodybuilding. I think it's wonderful all that you're doing. What is the name of the center that you're working with
Yeah.
again?
So Hazelbrook Sober Living. I'm at the facility, the Hazelbrook Community Center. You can find it at hazelbrookcommunity.org. It's here in Aurora, Colorado, but we serve all of Colorado.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
And we have
All
free
right.
boxing, we have free fitness, free activities, a whole bunch of stuff. As long as you haven't used substances in 24 hours, it's free.
Does it have an IG? Because what I would like to do is like
It does.
include in the description over on YouTube the links to all of the different
Oh,
places
that
that
would
you've
be
been
wonderful.
talking about. So
Thank you, Jeremy. That'd be wonderful.
you're
Yeah.
welcome. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer than we have, so I want to be respectful of your schedule, but thank you so much for being willing to
Anytime.
be a guest. So
Anytime. It was wonderful. I appreciate you.
thank you. So that'll do it for this episode of Art of Female Muscle Podcast. I am your host, Ben Physique Fan, and here we are signing off.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.